Before TLC ever told you not to chase waterfalls, before Destiny's Child made you pay their bills, there was a woman who stood in front of a microphone in 1986 and delivered the most unapologetic message ever pressed to vinyl. No romance without finance. Her name was Gwen Guthrie, and the song that made her a legend, Ain't Nothing Going On But the Rent, became the battle cry for a generation of women who refused to settle. But here's the twist nobody talks about. The woman who told the world she wouldn't accept anything less than respect died at 48, erased from the very history she helped write. If you love uncovering hidden legends like this, don't forget to like and subscribe to Legends Underrated. Gwen Guthrie was born on July 9, 1950, in Newark, New Jersey, a city that would become a factory for vocal royalty. Her first stage wasn't a concert hall or a recording studio. It was the New Hope Baptist Church, where she learned to channel something raw and holy through her voice. That same church, by the way, would later produce Whitney Houston and Cissy Houston. Imagine the sound bouncing off those walls. By the time Gwen turned 8, her father sat her down at a piano and taught her to play note by note, key by key. Music wasn't just something she did, it was the language she spoke when words weren't enough. In high school, she joined a female quartet called the Channels, then moved to another group called the Matchmakers, where she met a young man named Harris Joseph. He wasn't just her boyfriend, he became her creative partner, her collaborator, her other half in the fight to make it in an industry that chewed up dreamers and spit them out without a second thought. After high school, Gwen did what a lot of talented kids from Newark did. She got practical. She attended college in New York and became a first-grade teacher. Picture that, Gwen Guthrie, future disco queen, helping children learn their ABCs. But the stage kept calling. She couldn't ignore it. So she started writing and singing commercial jingles for Chevrolet, Avon, Burger King, Sprite, Kentucky Fried Chicken. The money was good. The work was steady. She even crossed paths with Valerie Simpson from the legendary duo Ashford and Simpson, who was doing the same thing at the time. But there was a problem. Every time Gwen walked into a studio, someone told her to sing like Aretha Franklin. They didn't want Gwen. They wanted a copy, a replica, a knockoff. And Gwen, she wasn't built like that. She said doing jingles was good and bad, financially good, but you lose your imagination. One day, she just walked away. She quit the jingle business, reclaimed her voice, and promised herself she'd never lose her imagination again. That decision led her and Harris to join a band called East Coast. And guess who else was in that group? Larry Blackmon, yes. The Larry Blackmon from Cameo, the guy who would later give the world Word Up. They released an album in 1973, but creative clashes pushed Gwen and Harris out the door. They wanted to write more. They wanted control. So they left, linked up with a manager named Benny Ashburn, and started shopping their songs to other artists. That's when the magic really started. In 1974, Gwen got a phone call that changed everything. One of Aretha Franklin's background singers was sick, and Cissy Houston, yes, Whitney's mother, recommended Gwen as a replacement. The song was I'm in Love, and it shot to #1 on the R&B charts. Gwen was no longer just a voice in the choir. She was singing behind the Queen of Soul, but even that wasn't enough. She wanted to write the songs, not just sing them. So she and Harris went to work. They wrote 9 songs for Sister Sledge's debut album, Circle of Love. Then they wrote Supernatural Thing for Ben E. King, and it became a #1 smash. They followed that with Do It in the Name of Love, and This Time I'll Be Sweeter, which was later covered by Angela Bofill in one of the most beautiful renditions you'll ever hear. Gwen was a hit maker. Labels noticed. CBS Columbia Records offered her a solo deal, and for the first time, Gwen was terrified. She didn't want to be out front. She liked the background, the safety of the shadows, but she took the deal anyway, wrote and produced an entire album herself, and that's when the industry showed its true face. The label didn't think a woman could produce her own record. They brought in big-name male producers to fix it, then tried to charge her for the privilege. The album never came out. Gwen said the industry wasn't ready for a female producer, and she was probably right. but that betrayal lit a fire in her. She wasn't going to let anyone silence her again. In 1978, she appeared in The Wiz as one of the choir singers. She wrote God Don't Like Ugly for Roberta Flack and Donny Hathaway. She toured with Flack. She sang background on Stephanie Mills' Never Knew Love Like This Before, which won 2 Grammys. And then she did something most people don't know about. She flew to Jamaica and worked with reggae legend Peter Tosh. She sang background on Bush Doctor, Mystic Man, and Wanted Dead or Alive. She even sang lead on a duet with Tosh called Nothing But Love. That reggae influence seeped into her bones, and when she hooked up with Sly and Robbie for their debut album, Island Records came calling. In 1982, she released her self-titled debut album, and singles like It Should Have Been You and Peanut Butter turned her into a club favorite. But here's the secret hardly anyone talks about. That same year, Gwen sang background vocals on Madonna's debut album. That's her voice you hear on Borderline. Madonna was just starting out, and Gwen was already a legend in the making. Stories like these are why I built Legends Underrated, so make sure to subscribe for more untold tales. Through the early 80 seconds, Gwen kept grinding. She released Portrait in 1983, which flopped in the US, but charted in New Zealand. She dropped Just For You and an EP called Padlock in 1985. None of them broke through the way she hoped, but she didn't stop. She left Island Records and signed with Polydor, and in 1986, everything changed. She released Good To Go Lover, and buried on that album was a song that would make her immortal. Ain't Nothing Going On But the Rent. The track was fire. It was bold. It was unapologetic, and it exploded. #1 on the dance charts, #1 on the R&B charts, number 42 on the pop charts. It hit #1 in New Zealand and Zimbabwe. The song became an anthem, a movement, a cultural reset. Women everywhere were singing, "You gotta have a job if you want to be with me. No romance without finance." It was 1986, and Gwen was competing with Whitney Houston's How Will I Know, Prince's Kiss, Cameo's Word Up, and Janet Jackson's Nasty. And she still got her #1. Foxy Brown would cover it in 1999 with Maya. The song never died. It just kept living, kept breathing, kept reminding women that they deserved better. But while the song was climbing charts, Gwen was fighting battles most people never saw. She wasn't just an artist, she was an activist. In 1988, she released Lifeline, and on that album was a song called Can't Love You Tonight, a track entirely about AIDS. At the time, over 47,000 people in the US had been diagnosed, and the world was terrified. Gwen donated the proceeds to the AIDS Coalition. She was a fierce advocate for the LGBTQ+ community during a time when most artists stayed silent. She was close friends with legendary DJ Larry Levin, who played at Paradise Garage, a gay nightclub in New York. They called Gwen the First Lady of Paradise Garage because when she performed, the place erupted. She didn't just show up for the applause. She showed up because she cared. Because she believed in using her voice for more than just music. By the early 90 seconds, though, the industry moved on. She released Hot Times in 1990 on Reprise Records, but it didn't make waves. She kept putting out singles Eyes, You Never Really Cared, This Christmas Eve, but none of them charted. In 1993, a remix of Ain't Nothing Going On But the Rent hit number 42 inches the UK, but by then, Gwen had quietly stepped away. She had 2 daughters, and she chose them over the spotlight. She spent time being a mother, being present, being human. She even dabbled in acting, landing roles in Chasing Amy, Very Bad Things, and Spencer Confidential. But the music industry had moved on without her, and the world seemed to forget the woman who once demanded respect in 3 minutes and 45 seconds. Then, in 1998, everything collapsed. Gwen was diagnosed with uterine cancer. She fought it quietly, the same way she fought for her career, with grace, with dignity, with strength. But on February 3rd, 1999, at just 48 years old, Gwen Guthrie died, 48. She was younger than most of the icons we celebrate today when they hit their stride. She never got to see the full legacy of what she built. She never got to witness how Ain't Nothing Going On But the Rent would be sampled, covered, and quoted for decades. She never got the roses while she could still smell them. And here's the painful truth. When people talk about the greatest voices from New Jersey, they mention Whitney Houston. They mention Cissy Houston, Dionne Warwick, Faith Evans, Regina Belle. But Gwen Guthrie, her name gets left off the list. Why? Was it because she was too bold, too unapologetic, too far ahead of her time? Or was it simply because the industry never knew how to handle a woman who refused to be anything but herself? Her daughters inherited her voice. Both of them can sing, and those who've heard them say the resemblance is chilling. Maybe one day they'll write a book about their mother. Maybe one day the world will finally give Gwen the credit she deserves. But until then, we have the music. We have Ain't Nothing Going On But the Rent. We have Peanut Butter and Padlock and all those songs that made people move, feel, and think. Gwen Guthrie told the world she wouldn't accept less than she was worth, and in doing so, she gave a voice to everyone who'd ever been underestimated, overlooked, or erased. Luther Vandross once said she was a genius, that her writing was an inspiration to everyone. Her humor and personality were just as prolific as her undeniable singing ability. This twist shocked the world, and if you never want to miss stories like this, subscribe to Legends Underrated today. So here's my question for you. Why do we let legends like Gwen Guthrie fade into the background? Why does history forget the women who demanded more, who fought harder, who refused to play small? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about it. Because if we don't tell these stories, who will?